So the story I want to tell you today about one of my experiences in Afghanistan took place in northern Afghanistan in a very remote location. And a friend, a fellow American who was also living in Afghanistan, who had lived there for many, many years, even before I ever was there, we were assisting a convoy, and we had a Russian Jeep, and we were, without getting into all the details because it's a long story, I want to get to the main point, but we were assisting a convoy of trucks to get to a location where they could meet up with others and travel to another remote part of the country to deliver relief supplies. So after we got done with our mission, me and my friend were on our way back to Mazar-e-Sharif, and it would have been, hours and hours journey away. We had spent the night at one location, and we were coming back, and it was getting dark, and we knew we weren't going to make it because at dark there was curfew, and it just wasn't wise to travel at dark. And suddenly we got stopped by a mujahideen fighter who flagged us down, and we stopped and we talked to him for a while. And immediately when he started talking and telling us a little bit about his story and why he stopped us and why he didn't want us to continue, we immediately recognized that he was associated with a traumatic event that took place that we had heard about on the news. Now, in Afghanistan at that time, in the 1990s, there were no cell phones, there was no internet. We had no communication at all with the outside world. And we would write letters, and they would be hand-carried out of Afghanistan and dropped into the postal system in another country by friends. But that was the only direct communication that we had with the outside world. But in the evenings, we would listen to the BBC and Iranian news broadcasts. And we learned about a very traumatic massacre that took place either in Iran or just near the border of Iran, where many Afghans of the Hazara ethnic group were massacred. And this mujahideen, who we met several days after we heard that report, when we were on this mission, we realized that he was one of the guys that escaped from that massacre. And you could see in his eyes the trauma that he had, and he told his story and told us what he experienced, that he just got back from this massacre. And there's no way to describe what the look in his eyes, and I've seen that several times, of people that are absolutely traumatized as much as you can ever imagine could happen to a human being, and live to tell about it. And so he made us stop for the night, and we camped out in that location, and then in the morning we went on our way. But the reason I tell this story is I want to relate it to the events that have taken place recently in Afghanistan and how it's affecting Americans and the military. And I'm not going to go into what has happened in the airport in Kabul recently in the last few days and what's going on right now, but the loss of life with the U.S. Marines and sailor and maybe other military personnel in Afghanistan, American military personnel, as well as Afghan civilians. But this has really reverberated into, it's hit the military community in a big way, the Marine community in a huge way. And the only thing I can say is that there are people that are traumatized that you can make a positive impact on. And everybody in the military, I think, is hurting and is confused and angry. There's an anger, and I think it ranges from a righteous anger to really bordering on, an unhealthy anger. And this is what I want to address. In these war situations, because of my experiences in Afghanistan, I have seen that the trauma to people can be tremendous. And we as Americans have an opportunity to help those that are in the military now, who are grieving and who are experiencing anger. And I would say to you, if you want to reach out and help, just talk to somebody in the military, just listen to them, And I'd advise you to don't feed into the anger that somebody may be feeling. And it may be a righteous anger, and there are good reasons to be angry at our leaders who do foolish things, and by their decisions they cause loss of life that really doesn't need to happen. It really is poor decision making. But don't feed into that. These leaders are who they are, and we, as just the common people in society, we need to care for one another. And this is one of the things that I've learned in Afghanistan throughout very traumatic experiences that the Afghan people had when there was no government in Afghanistan. And when I lived in the country, the U.S. Embassy was not functioning. It was closed, and it had been closed for many years. And the U.S. State Department warned Americans not to travel to Afghanistan. So I lived in that type of environment during those years in the 1990s. And so these experiences, what I learned in Afghanistan during very difficult times for the people, that humanity is very resilient, and we as people just can, in working together and working in communities, we can overcome some of the worst hardships that we could ever imagine. And so you have an important role in society, and don't underestimate the positive impact that you can make on people's lives. Reach out to those in the military. If you are in the military, I hope that you have people that you can talk to. If you want somebody to talk to, reach out to me. You can find me. You can call me. You can text me. You can email me. You can leave a comment in this section below. And I'm here to help anybody that is affected by this trauma. And I'm going to leave it there. There's so much more I can say about this, and so many other traumas and groups of people that are traumatized by this. But I did want to focus and relate my Afghanistan story to what's going on now and what we can do in the United States to help those who are grieving.